Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Monday, the 17th of October. India-Brazil sign for Memorandum of Understanding to bolster bilateral ties. At least 30 killed in bus collision in Pakistan. And Baloch community in Canada demands immediate release of abducted youth. And now for all the details, India and Brazil on Monday agreed to enhance cooperation in various sectors including trade and business. The leadership of the two countries met to establish cordial bilateral ties.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazilian President Michel Temer held negotiations on boosting political and trade ties. Delegation-level talks were held to shore up the bilateral engagement. India and Brazil exchanged 4 Memorandum of Understandings on genetic resources, agriculture, animal husbandry, natural resources and fisheries, on pharmaceutical products regulation, on cattle genomics and assisted reproductive technologies, and on investment cooperation and facilitation treaty.
I welcome Brazilian companies to come and invest in India and forge long-term commercial partnerships. President Temer and I have just met with our CEOs to hear from them firsthand. I am encouraged at the steps they are taking to advance pragmatic collaboration.
According to a government release, the overall bilateral trade in 2014 was at $11.42 billion, growing at 20.4% from the 2013 figure of $9.4 billion.
Cattle genomics and
India and Brazil have built a strong relationship in recent years based on common positions on issues such as global trade talks and expansion of the UN Security Council.
The two-day 8th BRICS Summit and BRICS BIMSTEC Summit that took place over the weekend in Western India had terrorism as one of its core agenda. The member countries unanimously agreed on fighting terrorism.
BRICS, an amalgamation of developing countries, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, met for its 8th annual summit in India's western province of Goa. While economy, trade and strategic cooperation were essentially the topic of discussion, terrorism rose as a dominant subject of common interest. The 5 member nations called for all countries to prevent terrorist actions from their territories and called for a prompt adoption of an India-backed global convention by the UN to combat terrorism. The issue found an overtone in the BRICS BIMSTEC summit, where Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a veiled attack, tore into Pakistan, saying terrorism has become its favorite child.
So, Indian Prime Minister is very right in highlighting the attention of the BRICS members to the fact that India is the main sufferer because the country that produces terrorists, which is, as he calls, the mothership, which is the breeding ground, is in the neighborhood of India. Nobody has a doubt the reference is to Pakistan.
India has been a victim of terrorism in recent times. Most of the attacks have been blamed on Pakistan-based terror outfits. New Delhi has been making efforts to draw international attention over the issue and create a collective consensus on fighting the menace.
Meanwhile, at least 30 people were killed and more than 60 injured when 2 buses collided in Pakistan's Punjab province on Monday morning.
At least 30 people were killed in Pakistan when 2 intercity buses collided in Rahim Yar Khan district of southern Punjab province. Images from the crash site showed a bus on its side with its windows shattered, another bus with its roof partly caved in. Rescuers said more than 30 people were injured in the crash. Fatal road accidents are common in Pakistan, where traffic rules are rarely enforced and road conditions in many rural areas are poor.
With human rights violations ongoing in the southwestern Balochistan province by the Pakistani government, Baloch activists remain determined to highlight the plight of their people. A report.
Determined to highlight their plight, members of the Balochistan Student Organization or BSO Azad staged a protest in Toronto City of Canada against unlawful abduction of Shabir Baloch by the Pakistani forces in southwestern Balochistan province. The protesters demanded an independent Balochistan free from the clutches of Pakistan. 24-year-old Shabir, the information secretary of BSO Azad, was allegedly abducted by the Pakistan Army on October 4 from Gowarkop while attending a gathering against the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC.
We are protesting here to let the world know, to let Canadian people know, to let everyone know that they should support us, support Baloch students and youth in Balochistan in raising their voice for the freedom of Shabir Baloch, the student leader. Shabir Baloch was abducted by Pakistani army on 4th of October.
Apart from Shabir, 29 others were also picked up. Baloch activists from across the globe have been highlighting the atrocities meted on their people by the Pakistani establishment.
The Amnesty International has issued an urgent action appeal against Shabir Baloch's abduction, and it's a good thing, I believe. And I'd like to say that the Amnesty International and other groups should take human rights issues of Balochistan seriously. And it's a good thing that the Indian government has taken a good step to isolate Pakistan, and other democracies in the world should follow the protest steps of Indian governments.
They also allege that Pakistan has been using forces to subdue the voices of Baloch people, and the act of human rights violations in the region is ongoing.
Life is miserable for thousands of people who fled away from the Pakistani counter-militancy offensive in the tribal belt of Waziristan. Living in refugee camps in Afghanistan's Khost province has not been short of troubles.
The situation is grim for tens of thousands of families who took refuge in Afghanistan 2 years ago, after fleeing a Pakistani counter-militancy offensive, Zarb-e-Azb. About 15,000 Pakistani refugees are living in the Gulang camp, located in Afghanistan's Khost province. They have sought shelter here after fleeing from the aerial and ground attacks by the Pakistan Army and Air Force.
قسم قسم خلکو په میګ وزیرستان دا نمد د هشګر د تپنه ورکړي د نه د میک سره د هشګر دی د هشګر په میډیا باندې معلوم دي چې د هشګر په کیمه وطن کې وي څوک په اسلام آباد کې جواشل څوک په کراچۍ کې جواشل میرامشاه اسی و بناوه څه شي دی پورا چې پختین د مان زوري پنجپای سړی پختین د مان زوري.
They speak of unimaginable pain and cruelty as attacks by the Pakistan Army on their homes in the tribal belt of Waziristan have killed and maimed hundreds, while their meager dwellings were razed to the ground by the incessant aerial bombardments.
دا خوري تکلیفونه په تیر وی او واړی کې ځړکای و ورکا و بیا ورستې مینداله په دماغ کې نه درغه دا ځړکای په دماغ کې نه د شاسي په ونه و خوته میندا یو سپای کړی و دا مینداله د تکلیفونه ورسېدل وی غومولینا وی دا ورکس ور سره کړ ساماندینا ندی دا ورشای پوت سولدای خالی رو غلی وی دا ساماندینا پوت نه دا تکلیفونه دا خوري دا غاب مقصدان کړه راتلی وی مزدګار چمو
The future remains uncertain. The refugees do not foresee return in the near future. Their fate is linked to the evolution of the military and political situation in Pakistan and the ties between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
A festival bringing together the best classical and folk performers from across the region was organized in Western India. It helps promote artistic traditions and handicrafts.
3-day International Ajanta Ellora Festival was organized in Aurangabad city of India's Western Maharashtra province. Ajanta Ellora is a popular tourist destination in India which attracts people from across the globe for their marvelous stone sculptures.
पूरे विश्व को हम बताना चाहेंगे कि हजारों वर्षों की पुरानी गुहाएं और यहाँ पे बुद्ध का ये सब चीजें और ये अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पर्यटकों के लिए हमने ये खुला किया है। उनको प्रोत्साहित करने के लिए, उनको आकर्षित करने के लिए महाराष्ट्र सरकार हर प्रयास करेगी।
The festival saw a live musical concert where famous Indian Bollywood singers sang songs in the regional language. Apart from this, various cultural competitions for children, women and senior citizens were organized on the occasion.
The Gir Wildlife Sanctuary in Western India was recently thrown open for tourists after a gap of 4 months. It is the only natural habitat of Asiatic lions and is also home to numerous animal species.
Gir Wildlife Sanctuary, the sole natural habitat of India's Asiatic lions in western Gujarat province, reopened for tourists after a 4-month gap. Every year, the sanctuary closes for tourists from June and reopens in October. According to the 14th lion census in the sanctuary, carried out in May last year, there are 523 Asiatic lions in Gir forest distributed across protected areas in Saurashtra region in Gujarat. Nature lovers and wildlife enthusiasts enjoyed the safari after the reopening.
जो 4 महीने का जो मैटिंग पीरियड है उस समय लाइन्स और जितने भी एनिमल्स दूसरे हैं सब मैटिंग सीजन में होते हैं और जो उनका जेस्टेशन पीरियड होता है उसके बाद कब्स जो आते हैं डेफिनेटली इस बार भी कब्स की संख्या में बढ़ोतरी तो हुई है। एग्जैक्ट काउंट तो हम लोग आपको नहीं बता सकते अभी, बट यस डेफिनेटली हम ये कह सकते हैं कि 100% इनकी संख्या में बढ़ोतरी हुई है।
Asiatic lions, different from African lions, with a characteristic skin fold on their bellies and thinner manes on the males, once roamed most of Asia before incessant poaching caused their population to decline alarmingly. Wildlife activists say the lions remain under threat from thousands of villagers living in and around the forests and want them to be relocated to save the endangered species.
Curtains were brought down to the Indian Fashion Week with lavish sartorial trends. From uber-cool urban style to grandeur and elegant elaboration, the grand finale was a spectacular fashion delight. Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. India-Brazil signed for Memorandum of Understanding to bolster bilateral ties. At least 30 killed in bus collision in Pakistan. And Baloch community in Canada demands immediate release of abducted youth. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.